It is 4 minutes past 2. I'm Helen Farmer with you through until 4 o'clock as ever. The text lines are open, whether you've got a question for our experts, and if you'd rather be anonymous there, that is absolutely A-OK on 4001 on the app or the WhatsApp. Or perhaps you want to join us for our big day out. And I wouldn't blame you. To be honest, it's going to be fantastic. We are going to be taking over Yass Waterworld on Saturday, July 12th and celebrating basically a whole load of new rides and slides and attractions. And I'd love you to be there. I've got 4 tickets up for grabs today. You just need to text me the word YAS. That's it. On 4001, 2 lucky listeners will be going head to head later in the show with, I promise, an easy question. So don't stress. We're here to be kind, we're here to be generous, but if you want to come on air and win those tickets, send me the word YAS. Good luck. School's out for summer, and most children feeling really excited about it. But for actually many neurodivergent kids, this season can bring uncertainty, anxiety and overwhelm. Maybe it's leaving a familiar teacher who knew them really well over the last year, or routines that have served them over the last few months. And then, of course, in the summer, disrupted therapy, family travel, maybe even changing schools, can be far from relaxing for those kids and indeed their families. So inclusion expert Louise Dawson is here to explore how we can ease transitions, and maybe a little bit of planning and a checklist can go a long way. Louise, thank you, not just for being with us today, but for all you do in this space. And I know how busy you are. We know how many people are moving to the UAE right now. How's the inbox looking?
Well, it calms down in terms of contact from schools, which is really good. But definitely there's been an increase in parent contact. Families who have got to the end of the school year and are uncertain about whether they stay in that school setting, whether to make that jump or not. A lot of conversations around that. And then, yes, people coming into the country requiring spaces when spaces are always a struggle, whether you're inside or outside the country. So, yeah, keeping people calm.
Thank you. Take some deep breaths together this half hour, Louise. To your mind, and I guess I ask you this as someone who's on the front line, both with kids and parents, but also educators as well and therapists, why can the summer break be particularly challenging for neurodivergent kids?
I think in term time, we're always on the go. We have our structure, we have our timetable. Children know what to expect. They know what's coming. They know that school finishes at this time. They have some kind of structure and routine.
Even, what they're going to wear tomorrow.
Exactly. And they don't have to think about clothing because often they're in uniforms and they know when they're doing their exercise. So there's just so much structure. And I think we lead really busy lives. We don't even have time to think about what's coming or what to do. And then we come to summer and everything just disappears. The routine, the structure, the clothing. Even our parents might be working or they might be at home, but they're equally frazzled. So they want some downtime too. And yet children do need activities and they do need things to do, but in a structured, unstructured way. That's the challenge, is getting it structured and unstructured at the same time.
Okay, well, we're going to get into what exactly that can look like.
Yeah.
What are some signs that a child might be struggling at this kind of point, whether it is the end of term or indeed, as you say, everything going out of the window? What could parents be tuned into and go, oh, actually, that's what's really going on now?
I think in terms of leaving the classroom, some of their friends will be leaving the country. Some will be going to different schools, so their safety will be removed. They will have built relationships with teachers who are also leaving. It's a very, very transient city, country, area, region, much more so than we might find in our home country. So that whole transient piece around children going, teachers going, much more so than just a normal transition in a typical school back home. So that whole lack of safety and security is the biggest challenge.
And how can that then come out in behaviour, or if a child, whether it's through their age or their emotional awareness, how can that show up?
In all sorts of ways. Some will go quiet and step away and shut down and stay in their room and not know how to tackle life. Some will come out and talk and talk and talk and repeat and repeat and repeat and drive parents crazy with what am I going to do in September? We're in July. We can't think about September or August at the moment, so our mindset isn't there, but children's mindsets can be there. So it's the And the whole spectrum in between, shut down to complete over anxiety
and emotional dysregulation. This
100%.
100%. I've got this with my youngest right now, and I'm trying to be very understanding. But my goodness.
I think that one of the tricks to do is to write things down. So it's to schedule a time when you're not running out to work, when you haven't got to watch a movie on the TV that you've all scheduled. It's finding that time to sit and be purposeful in, okay, let's talk about it. I know your friends are leaving, so what does that look like? Is there a way that we can stay in touch? Is there a way that we can plan a visit in the future? Is there a way that, have you got contact, email or WhatsApp or whatever the children are on nowadays that I know nothing about? Because they Snapchat, but even that's probably on the way out.
But this idea of like, this is the information we have right now.
Yeah.
I'm not holding anything back from you. I'm here to answer what I can
and listen.
And listen.
Totally listen, but then write things down so that it's tangible. We can feel it, we can see it, we can touch it, especially around neurodiversity, things that are outside. So some people, like myself with my autism, if someone's not in the room, they don't exist. So for me, transient's quite good. So don't look for the problem that might not be there.
Interesting.
Because I don't care. Don't tell my friends and family that. But one of the reasons I can survive overseas is my family is at home. I know I'm safe and I'm comfortable. If they need me, they will contact me. If they're not contacting me, they don't need me, so I can get on with my life. So there's a huge separation there between.
But there might be spiralling in areas that might not occur to a neurotypical person.
Yes.
And as I said, many kids and their families rely on therapies during term time. As you said, they'll be, scheduled into those weeks. What can happen when that regular support disappears over the holidays, whether that's the therapist, going on travelling themselves, or we're going to be talking, families travelling too. What impact have you seen on that kind of summer slide, I suppose?
I think the summer slide are the word for regression. People worry that their children are going to regress. So I liken it to going to the gym. If you go to the gym every day, you're going to maintain a toned physique, you're going to maintain your energy levels. When you stop going to the gym, you are going to not maintain, and you might put on a few pounds, and you might get a bit more
fluffy.
That's all I am, is fluffy. But when you then go back to the gym, it's easier to get back into shape because you've been in shape.
Got that muscle memory going on.
Exactly. So when children then re-enter therapy in the new term or whenever, they will catch up very quickly and start from where they left off. So I don't worry about regression. But with things like occupational therapy, these therapies are often needed in order to maintain a child's behaviours in a classroom. Our children are not in classroom for the next 2 months. So our occupational therapy really does need to be climbing trees, grounding, taking your shoes off and walking in the grass. And that is more difficult if you're staying here for the summer, but it's not impossible. Go to Warside Gardens Centre and walk through the trees, count leaves, go to Mushroff Park and climb in the trees. Yes, it's hot.
Yeah, but get to the beach
Hydrate,
early.
Get to the beach.
We were there this morning, 7:15.
Crikey, you're a better woman than I am. But don't worry about regression and do it in a different way.
Okay.
Because you've got more time, theoretically.
If people are lucky enough to be travelling, it is a bit of a mixed blessing, because it can be very overwhelming. And as I said, we are going to be hearing from Dubai airports after past about what they've been putting in place. But airports, new beds, new foods, people that you might be unfamiliar with, even if they are part of the family. What kind of conversations can you have before even setting off for the airport, Louise?
Each of those topics are quite huge in isolation. So you've got the whole travel thing. My top tip would be create a comfort kit or a bag which is particular to a child, which they are responsible for and they carry and pack themselves. Things like their favourite pillow, depends on the age. So, they might be headphones, there might be a pillow, it might be their favourite book, or a comfort kit which children are comfortable with. That can then support them through the airport because they've got their things. It can support them when they're sleeping because they've got their things. The airport is brilliant. If you have a hidden disabilities lanyard, the Sunfly lanyard, I have one myself. It's brilliant. And it does give you access to some services which you might not otherwise get. So, if you haven't got one, highly recommend them. I think I've got about 3 left if anybody wants one. I often lose the one that I carry with me all of the time. I quite often lose that because I'm giving it away. You can get those in many countries, the UK train stations, all of those places are available. Comfort kit, schedule in downtime. That's the biggest thing. So recognise you know your children better than anybody knows your children. You know if they get tired when they're hungry. And if you don't know we use the word trigger, but we, on the other side, we use glimmers. If you don't know what makes your child anxious and you don't know what makes your child happy, you need to consciously stop and look at the times of day. So in school, we would have a schedule and we would say, right, 7 o'clock, they're doing well, 7:30, they're doing well, 8 o'clock, oh, they've lost it a bit. And if you do that and regularly check through the day for 5 or 6 days, you will see a pattern emerge nearly always. Is it just before lunch? Is it just after lunch? Is it just before bedtime? Is it that they haven't eaten? Is it that they're not hydrating enough? Is it that they haven't had movement? Is it too much device? If you track for a week, you can see your child's trigger points and their glimmer points. So knowing then helps you to remove it and prevent it, because prevention is so much better than cure.
Too right. Okay, I've got so many questions for you. We're keeping Louise Dawson in the studio, as you've been hearing, an expert on inclusion. And of course, conversations around school, but I'm also curious, when you are visiting family who don't have a level of understanding about a diagnosis or what a day-to-day can look like with your child, how can you handle that? You can reach out, of course, and if you'd rather be anonymous, not a problem at all. 4001 is the SMS. You can use the ARN Play app and the WhatsApp, or if you'd rather, give us a call. Same number, 04871 5500.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
With Yas Island Abu Dhabi. Stay at iconic hotels and play at record-breaking theme parks. Book now on yasisland.com.
Tell us, Milani, it's 16 minutes past 2. What's happening on the roads?
A number of accidents again, Helen. This time, there are 2 crashes on. This is Nad Al Hamar Road. This is northbound, heading towards Rashidia area. Now, there is another accident on the E311. This is opposite of Al Warqa 3. And on the opposite direction, it's very slow coming from Mirdif area until you reach Sharjah this hour. Same on the E11 on both directions in front of Sharjah Corniche. There is also another crash also on the E311, but southbound coming from City University Ajman heading towards Sharjah Golf and Shooting Club. Now on the E611, the Emirates Road, there is a slowdown there. This is northbound heading towards the E88 or Al Daid Road. If you want to add anything else, text us on 4001. Please drive safely.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
I know the roads do feel quiet, but please do not get complacent. As Milani said, anything we need to know, get in touch, but only if it is safe to do so. Be part of the solution and not the problem. Thank you.
More of Afternoons with Helen Farmer is coming up next.
On the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
It is the summer holidays. It can mean freedom and fun. But for many neurodivergent children and, of course, their families, unstructured time can present some very real challenges. We've been talking about the loss of school routine, a break in therapies, or anxiety about what's next. These months can be tough. So how can we support children with autism, ADHD, sensory needs to feel safe and supported and seen this season? Inclusion consultant Louise Dawson is here with some practical advice and lived experience as well. Louise, you do an awful lot of work in terms of going into schools and supporting them and how they can support families, but also this much needed advice and a port in the storm for families who are trying to navigate schools and school places and support systems and school refusals and kids being expelled. And I feel like this conversation has really come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. And as I said earlier, you've been a really important part of that. But do you still feel like there are myths and misconceptions that you're coming up against time and time again?
Yes, I think there's however many billion people in the world, and we can't reach all of them all of the time. And so we are, but also parenting is cyclical, right? So many parents that I'm dealing with are first time parents. So my 3, all neurodivergent, they're in their late 20s, my daughter will kill me now, mid to late 20s. Mm-hmm. And so I've been on that journey for nearly 30 years now. My own journey, 50 something years, we were talking earlier about how wonderful it is to be in your 40s. Well, guys, I can tell you your 50s are much better.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. So the whole lived experience and the whole not knowing who I am and what I am is a huge part of what I do. But definitely the 3 children. And in true ADHD style, I've forgotten the question.
Thank you for your honesty. But really, I guess some of the common
Or the myths.
myths
You were
and
talking about
misconceptions.
myths. So yes, they're there because first-time parents, this is their first time dealing with it. So they don't know. They don't know how to choose a school. If they are coming from a country where you are assigned a school, you didn't get that choice process. So they haven't been through that as children or watched their parents go through it. They haven't got a frame of reference for that discussion. It's all private here. Many of us wouldn't have ever considered our children being in private school. So then what does that look and why is that piece so different? But in terms of myths around diversity, 100%, they will always be there. I don't think so. Again, this is why I champion inclusion. If our children today sit in classrooms with diverse children, they will grow up understanding that diversity is okay. You can still be successful. It's okay to be a ballet dancer. It's okay to be a financial consultant. It's okay to be good at math. It's okay to be rubbish at math. It's okay. And if we bring up our children understanding that it's okay, much of the myth will disappear. Much of the angst of parenting difference will disappear because it won't be I was brought up, I had 2 children in my class who were both wheelchair users. So I have no fear of talking to them about toileting or, oh my goodness, I recognise when the ramp isn't appropriate. I recognise that they won't be able to get through the door. So I think a whole lot of my acceptance came from being exposed to people with difference in the community that I lived in. And therefore, I think that's why I'm where I am. Whereas we're still dealing with a lot of cultures where children are hidden if they have disability, they are at home if they have a hearing impairment or vision impairment. How often do you see people with white canes? How often do you see people who with hearing impairment? In wheelchair users, even like when I came out in 2012, I never saw a wheelchair user. And yet now, because they can access the malls, because they can access public transport, they are out now in the community and it is growing and that is brilliant. But that's half the problem. But that's why I advocate for inclusion in schools. Children need to see it, to know it's okay so that that's why our teachers struggle to teach because they didn't grow up with the dyslexic child sat beside them.
And I think for many parents, it's a fear piece as well. It's like, not knowing how to answer your children's question about why that person might look or act different to what you might have expected or seen before. The reason I wanted to ask you that, Louise, is for many people who might be travelling over the summer and maybe they're going back to their home countries, maybe they're staying with their parents or with friends who don't understand or maybe don't even believe in ADHD, who might just go, that behaviour is appalling. That can be really hard for a parent because there's a lot of shame and blame attached to some of these conversations. And it can be very hard to expect our children to be emotionally regulated if we are spinning out about feeling accused of something, of overreacting, of, medicating, or whatever it looks like for your particular family.
Really, really tough. So I remember when mine were toddlers and I went home, and this was pre-identification, before we knew what was going on. And the fact that they would only eat orange food was my fault because I was a bad mother that didn't expose them enough to vegetables. I could put carrots in front of them for eternity. They would never, they still won't. He's 27, still won't. Sorry, kid. Might do in a Chinese. But so they wouldn't sleep. So, neurodiversity in a strange place, in a cot bed they're not used to, sharing a room with 2 other people where they're not feeling quite as safe. They wouldn't sleep. And so that judgment was definitely, especially I travelled a lot on my own because husband was working at the time. Husband is still working, but he's not my husband. But he...
Topic for another day.
Exactly. The whole piece of having to single-handedly look after 3 children for 6 weeks in my parents' house, and many people experience that year on, year out. So, and my parents would never understand autism or ADHD until much later. The children were in their 20s before my parents really got it. So it was about creating space for us, I would spend some time in a hotel because staying at home for 6 weeks wasn't going to be manageable. Making sure that I had time away from the family, day trips where we went on our own, not with them, so that we could regulate. And sometimes those day trips were going to the local park and sitting in the grass and not doing anything but sit and read or listen to our music. So those breaks away are really important. Keep talking to people because they need to learn, but don't blame them for not knowing. Blame's got no place in any of this, even though we're blamed. Putting it back on other people, it's just not healthy.
There can, as I said, be these very unfamiliar situations, and you mentioned they're staying with people in beds, but also things like crowded spaces, this idea of, completely unfamiliar cities. You talked earlier about the importance of writing things down, having something tangible. What other tools can be really valuable for kids that and that you found in your own family for keeping them regulated and informed and safe?
Yeah. So we talked a lot about school being very structured and routine, and we lose that in the summer, but you can still create structure and routine, but in a flexible way. It's quite difficult to explain. So I used to have a choice jar or a choice box where I used to write down different activities, and the kids could open the box and pick out the activity they felt like doing today. So we are not early birds at all. So we would all say, right, my structure and my routine is that you wake up when you wake up. When you wake up, we will eat. And when we eat, we will then do an activity which you can choose from the jar. Each child got choice each day. So child 1, then child 2, then child on 3 different days, so that they all felt heard and accepted. The same with food. So I've just had 4 interns working with me today. And I wanted to treat them to lunch because they've done a fabulous job this week. And I know, because some of them are divergent, some are not. But I know that actually when you're doing a group lunch, each person needs to choose a dish, which is why Chinese is fabulous. So when each person chooses a dish, they all get something they like, and yet we can all eat together. So it's that structure which is unstructured, if you like.
Makes sense.
So key routines need to stay the same. Eating, your sleep routine needs to stay the same. Okay,
Crucial.
None of this 1 or 2 o'clock in the mornings, because then you get dysregulated mornings, then you get dysregulated eating, and then that all just sets off. So key routines stay the same. Access to lots of activities. Create a rhythm to your day, even if what happens in that rhythm is unstructured.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to keep Louise Dawson with us. We are also going to be hearing next from Dubai Airports because they've been doing a guided travel simulation for children with autism to help build confidence ahead of the holidays, real travel scenarios. More tips from Louise coming your way. But of course, if you do have any specific questions, you can reach out on 4001. We'd be very happy to help you out. If you'd rather be anonymous, not an issue. It's George Ezra on Dubai I103.8. Helen Farmer with you through until 4 o'clock as ever. And don't forget, send us the word YAS to 4001. This is your chance to win 4 tickets to join us for our Dubai I103.8 Big Day Out. We are taking over and making a splash at Yas Water World a week on Saturday, the 12th. I've got 4 tickets up for grabs today. 2 listeners going head to head with a very simple question. So if you fancy having a chat later on and winning those 4 tickets, that's all you need to do. Send the word YAS, as in Waterworld, to 4001 and keep your phone handy. It is summer season, and as millions pass through Dubai International Airport this summer, there's a quieter, more inclusive story taking shape behind the scenes. In partnership with Al Jalila Foundation, Dubai Airports recently hosted a guided travel simulation for children with autism. This is helping them and their families to build confidence, have a familiarisation around real travel scenarios, from check-in to boarding, aiming to reduce anxiety and prepare families for smoother journeys. Fatima Taha is with us today from Dubai Airports to share a little bit more about what happened and indeed why. Fatima, thank you so much for your time. Would you mind explaining a little bit more about this travel simulation experience at DXB? What did it actually look like for the children and the families that took part?
Firstly, hi Helen. I'm so glad to make it to the show today.
Thank you.
So in Dubai Airports, we call it travel rehearsal, and sometimes we call it a travel safari. But in essence, it's an initiative that we jointly started with Emirates Airlines to offer a day an experience within the airport. So we welcome families, we welcome centers, we welcome school children to come and join us for a day and replicate a travel experience. So it really starts at curbside, arriving at the airport, grabbing their sunflower lanyard to showcase that additional support is needed throughout the different touch points of the journey. So we move into the check-in. We see what are the different offerings within the check-in. Are there any challenges? What further can the staff support with? We move into immigration, into police, into the concourse area. We do offer taxis and buggies, and off to the boarding gates, and finally on board the aircraft itself. So the
whole
experience
thing.
really, the whole thing, yes.
Fatima, you've trained thousands of airport staff
Yes.
around being autism friendly, and as you said, recognising the importance of the sunflower lanyard, what it actually means. How have the airport staff responded to that? Tell us a little bit about some of the training they've received.
So I think one of the main enablers that allowed us to have this number of travel rehearsals across different disabilities is having the staff aware, having the staff trained. So I'm happy to say that we are almost around 47,000 staff trained across the whole sector, and not just Dubai Airport staff. So the content has been created in-house with the support of Community Development Authority and experts from Dubai Autism Center. So this has been cascaded throughout the entire community. It also covers frontline staff and office staff. So it's not only for the people working in the front line. We want to create that culture that sits along the whole ecosystem and not just focuses on one area.
Airports can be incredibly overwhelming, whether you are neurotypical or neurodiverse, whether that is, size, noise, volume of people. Were there any kind of specific sensory friendly adaptations that you guys have made or observed that can support children?
So we have the sunflower lanyard scheme, and what that does is that it discreetly allows people to declare themselves as persons with disabilities, needing that extra time or that extra understanding or that extra support. So that is one of the main catalysts of the assisted travel program that we have. And in Dubai airports, we have a priority autism lane. I don't think maybe it's as well known. So it starts at check-in, proceeds into a special counter on immigration and a special security lane, up to the boarding gates where the families, they have the choice to either board first or board last. And Emirates Airlines has just been announced as the first autism certified airline. So we do make sure that the entire travel journey from curb to gate to the aircraft is well equipped, whether it is the staff being trained or whether it is some sensory measures that we have put in place.
And what was feedback like on the day, Fatima? What were you hearing from families and children about that familiarisation process?
It was an eye-opener for me. We've done this more than 20 times, but every time it feels like the first time. So you can really see how this is a very personal experience for every family, because the needs, they vary from a person to the other. So it's really an eye-opener on what we can do as an airport staff, as an airline staff, how to take it that extra mile, how to add that even more personal touch to the experience that they have whenever they travel through DXB.
Fatima, thank you so much for your time. I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is such a choice to turn towards knowledge, turn towards asking for feedback. And as I said, Louise Dawson in the studio today, inclusion expert here in the UAE. As I said, travel can be incredibly overwhelming for so many families, and you add in the unfamiliar. Fatima talking about there from, literally being dropped off at the airport all the way going through to the concourse. How valuable do you think this is, and is there anything that you think would be, could be enhanced or even added to this to help families over summer travel or indeed any travel period?
Definitely acknowledge Dubai Airport. They are incredible. The training they have put in is incredible. There's a couple of differences that we do need to highlight. The sunflower lanyard, there's two. There's a white one and a green one. The green one is for the person who is struggling with the hidden disability, and the white one shows that people are trained to support those people with disability. That's the main criteria. Also, the green sunflower lanyard is for hidden disabilities. It's not about autism. So we need to make sure, because people are wearing those if they have an illness like cancer, where they might have a physical difference. It might be a man or a woman who is struggling, or a child who is struggling with something that's hidden. It can be hearing impairment, it can be vision impairment. There's so many different, medical conditions, epilepsy. So it's important, because just because someone's wearing a green lanyard doesn't mean they're autistic, and that can cause some discomfort as well.
That's interesting. By the way, if you want to send me the sunflower emoji, I'll send you the website so you can find out a little bit more about getting one, the resources involved. But I think that is a really important kind of education piece for anyone who is either needing one or sees someone wearing one at the airport.
Because it's, people don't always want to be associated with being autistic. It's not an autism thing. However, as a lanyard wearer myself and with my kids, those easier routes through the airport do make a huge difference. The easier route onto the train, if you're transporting through the airport, makes a huge difference. Being given choice, I think that Fatima just said about, it's a very personalised journey. So the first time I wore it and I was segregated from the queue and ushered into a queue I didn't necessarily want to be in, because like Fatima said, it's about being discreet, and I felt like it wasn't being discreet for me the first time. But now I know that that's how I might be treated. I now know how to step back when I can. If I don't want to be treated differently, I take the lanyard off.
Makes sense.
So it's all about that.
It's all information.
Ownership.
And I think that point about, do you want to board first? Is that extra time going to be beneficial to you, or would you rather?
Or it might make it worse.
Or it might make it worse.
Yeah.
Is it better to then,
But
stay
all
at the
the
gate?
airports, I've been in hundreds of airports on many different journeys. We are treated far more kindly and respectfully and with knowledge in Dubai, which hasn't happened in other places. So hats off to the team, hats off to I know the training that they've been doing.
47,000 people.
I know, it's incredible. But that doesn't just impact the airport either. Those people take that into their lives. They take that into the malls when they're shopping. They witness people who might be emotionally dysregulated. They're supporting out there in the community. It's just removing the stigma, and it's an awesome achievement, and they should be very, very proud of themselves.
Huge ripple effect. And we are seeing, as more people are travelling into Dubai, whether that is to live or to visit, attractions and destinations being certified as being autism friendly. I was at the Green Planet the other day, which was really interesting, talking about literally having a kind of almost like a sensory guide about, how noisy is it going to be out of 5? What smells could be expected in this space in terms of light.
We have Mercato Mall is autism friendly. We have cinemas who are doing less sensory involved film showings. This city is awesome, and I repeat it, and it's not just because I live here for a reason, but the journey that they have taken. 2017 is when they first really highlighted inclusion in the country. It was taking place before, but 2017 was the turning point. And being here and watching the speed, the rate, the acceptance, I think it comes from the fact that there's so many different nationalities here. It's automatically an inclusive environment. But this just is the icing on the cake, and the city is awesome, and we must never forget how far we've come in education, in shopping, in transport, in hotels.
And as I said earlier, you are a huge part of that conversation, Louise. So thank you so much. For anyone that wants your details, if you want to send me the word Louise, we'll keep it simple. Louise Dawson is on hand, whether you are indeed an educator or a school, you're someone who's looking to navigate this landscape, whether it's been a recent diagnosis and you're looking for guidance when it comes to Senko departments. She knows it all and she knows everyone.
That's worrying. And I'm releasing each day on my Instagram, I'm releasing one free activity that families can do, which is, because that's one of the biggest challenges here, is what can you do that's free, that doesn't cost a lot, that's sensory friendly. So every day there's an activity coming out. Instagram @Louise Inclusion.
There you go.
Stay in touch.
Thank you so much. As I said, send me the word Louise. I'll send you that Instagram, which in itself is a brilliant resource when you're looking to navigate this space. But any and all ideas welcome for the summer and beyond.
Weather check
With Air Arabia, starting the 20th of December, discover Prague's castle